It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Forum on Eagle Community Television. Our guest is Travis Couture-Lovelady, and he has been representing us in the 110th District of the Kansas Legislature, but just recently has made a change to work for the NRA. Travis, good to have you on our program.
Gary, it's great to be here with you.
You know what, I've been looking forward to doing this program because you've been representing kind of a northern area, the 110th District of the state of Kansas, and decided to resign that, take a new position. First, let's talk about that position. That had to be a hard choice.
Oh, it was tough. It was tough. I loved representing the people of Northwest Kansas. It was a great opportunity. I got to be involved in a lot of the good things that I thought did some good stuff for Kansas and Western Kansas, and hated to give that up, but this was just really too good of an opportunity to pass up for me. I've been involved in Second Amendment gun rights issues for a long time, even long before I ever thought about running for office. So the opportunity to take that, still work on that in Kansas, but also be able to work on that around the country was just too good to pass up.
Well, let's talk about that because, you know, one of the things in the state legislature, you represented a rural part of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, we need as many good rural Kansans representing us as possible. So I know that part of it. I know there'll be some changes that have been announced that will go into place there as well. What does it take to actually not be a politician anymore? Can you ever just turn that off? Or what do you have to do to say, hey, I don't want to be the state legislator anymore from the 110th District? What do you do?
Well, you do just issue a
news release?
That
works too.
Well, yeah, that'd get it out there, but I did send a letter and that Hayes Post did put on the website and all that, explaining why, but also you issue a formal letter to the Secretary of State, and then that creates the chain of events that leads to the replacement convention.
It makes that happen. Well, in your case, I bet you've heard from some constituents since you have made that announcement, correct?
Yeah.
What are you hearing?
Pretty good positive stuff. You know, a lot of folks are sad to see me leave, so I suppose there's probably a few that aren't, but mostly I've had great response from people that said, we hate to lose you, but we really need you for our country to do other things in other areas and continue to fight. So I'm definitely not leaving politics. There's a lot more I can do and plan on doing going forward. So.
Well, let's talk about your new position with the NRA. I know you've been involved with that for many years. What exactly are you taking over and what are you doing,
Mm-hmm.
and where do you go? What's your first steps with them?
Well, my official title is state liaison, so I'll be assigned a number of states, yet to be determined, but so far Kansas and Oklahoma, and probably get a handful more depending on the makeup of how things work. But that's what I've got so far, and I'll just be working to defend the Second Amendment and pass gun laws there, stop other bad laws. So that's essentially what I'll be working on.
Now, is that something that you do training for? Will you take a time off to go train with the NRA? Because as a national organization, you hear about them, especially through some of the incidents that have happened. You'll hear them talk about things. What is the introductory period that you have to kind of get on board with them?
Sure.
Are you up to speed already?
I've got a leg up. I've been around it for a long time, more than someone who had just kind of had a dabbling in the issues and was jumping in. So I don't have to have as much training, but there is there's always more to learn. There's issues that we haven't dealt with in Kansas or in the center of the country, and if I end up having to go to California, that's a whole nother dynamic. That's more of a defense rather than offense in many ways. So it changes based on the states, but there'll be a lot of issues-based training. There's also just general training, getting used to the way they talk about things, the way they do things. So.
Now, the national level is there, and then they have the state liaisons that you'll be one of. I assume that takes a lot of travel.
Oh yeah, lots of travel.
All in these states, or will you actually go back to Washington and be involved with politics back there as well with the NRA?
Not so much that. The focus will be in the states. I'm in the state and local department, so our focus is into the states where we feel that there actually is progress being made. DC is such a gridlocked nightmare right now that pretty much everyone's just kind of trying to keep bad stuff from happening. They're not making much progress, but the states are making real progress. And so that's where a lot of the resources and the focus have come from. And as they look to get people like myself to come help, you know, it's just like anything else. Gun rights supporters in Western Kansas don't want to be dictated to necessarily from a group in Virginia either. So
That's exactly right,
it's a grassroots organization, and the closer they can put their people in to their grassroots activists, the better off the organization will be, just like anything else. So I think that's a good thing they're doing, where I can relate a lot better than someone who's living in Virginia to states like Kansas and Oklahoma and other areas like that.
Well, I don't know if this is something that you talk about a lot, but when did this idea start? Because you've been a part of the NRA and a member in many areas,
Yeah.
worked on some legislative things. I think House Bill 2199 was another one that just happened. You were involved with several of these things, so it's not new to you. When do you start thinking about all this?
About gun rights in general,
or
or
about moving to the NRA?
Oh shoot! Well, I guess it'd be about 2.5 weeks ago now.
Okay, so it all happened
Yeah,
pretty quick.
very quickly. I wasn't on my radar at all. It just, guy called me up and said, "Hey, I got promoted. We're looking to hire someone. Would you be interested?" And I was like, nah, not really. And he's like, "No, well, think about it. Just come out and talk to us." Like, yeah, all right, I'll talk to you. And it turned out to be something I really felt called to go do.
Well, it's fun to have you here on the program and talk about that, because you've been here before, and you're a big voice for us in Western Kansas, and so will continue to be. I'm going to take a break and come back, and let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that you'll be dealing with in the NRA. We'll be back after this from HaysMed.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our Forum program here on Eagle Community Television. The Forum's brought to you by HaysMed. And if you have questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, I hope you let me know. Send me an email at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. I'd like to hear from you. You can also check us out on Facebook. We have some of our past programs there. You can go online and watch those. And you can also link up under ECTV Forum and sign in and be one of our guests there, and send us your comments via Facebook. Our guest is Travis Couture-Lovelady, who just made a recent change in his world of moving from the representative of the 110th District in the Kansas legislature to working for the NRA as a liaison for several states, including Kansas and Oklahoma. And we went into the break talking about some of the NRA things that are going to happen. Obviously, there's been, whenever a national incident involving guns takes place, it gets raised in the national media about gun control laws. Mm-hmm. How will you address those in Kansas and Oklahoma, and what do you expect to see in those?
Well, I mean, those are unfortunate events, and the way the media coverage has been on them, a lot of people think that there's a huge number of increase in those happening, when actually gun violence over the past 30 years is down significantly. Most people don't know that. They say, well, we read about it in the media, and it seems like it's happening a lot more, so people have that unfortunate misunderstanding of the way things really are. But it's also a matter of numbers. If you talk about what your definition of mass shooting is, the more liberal groups will say there's been 356, but if you take the more traditional understanding of what a mass shooting is, there's only been 4. It doesn't make them any, less bad or anything like that, but it's just how you categorize them. You can take an incident where there was a mass shooting with a BB gun, and that was triggered in their 356 number. So that completely changes the dynamic and the understanding of these events. But if you're talking specifically like what happened with San Bernardino recently, I mean, that's California. That's some of the most strict gun laws in the country, and these individuals were still able to get these guns, and it's hard to legislate those kind of folks out of it.
When you look at this, is it an all or none proposition? I mean, at some point, the NRA, you know, the right to bear arms is in our Constitution, but is it an all or nothing thing? And that seems to be one of the other things that keeps coming up. We ought to have certain bans on certain types of guns and weapons. How are you going to deal with that in Kansas and Oklahoma, and how does the NRA deal with that?
Well, it's something that should be looked at state by state. I mean, different cultures in different states should make those decisions at the state level for the most part. There's the generic thing that is battled out in D.C. to make sure that the states are still allowed to go out and have those discussions. But Kansas is very different from California. California is a lot different than Florida or Texas. And so those decisions, in my mind, I've always felt that best made at the state level.
And in Kansas, how does Kansas compare to other states around our area, like Oklahoma, Nebraska, Missouri? We know how we compare to California because it's a whole different ballgame. Same way with New York and other areas like that, the bigger states. But how do we compare it to the surrounding states for gun control laws?
We're very similar. I mean, there's a few cultural differences. Colorado is a special incident where you've got a lot of transplants moving there from California, and so you have really a battle of extremes going on there. So that's a much different dynamic than Kansas, I would say. But Oklahoma, Nebraska, even Missouri, they're all fairly similar to what we've dealt with in Kansas.
Well, it's going to be a challenging position because I know there's some of the opponents, and like you say, there's extremes all across, but you'll have a challenging job to do that and tell the story. Your background is right for being able to do it, so congratulations on the new position. Also have to say congratulations because you're also getting married. So not only are you changing to a brand new job, but you're getting married as well, so congratulations on that. And I assume you're not moving, or should I not assume that?
I'm staying here. That was part of the discussion with them as agreeing to take the job. I didn't want to move to Virginia or D.C. or any of that. I wanted to stay home, and they said that's fine. You'll just be on the road a lot. So
where will you travel to? Mainly Topeka, the State House, or will you actually be doing guest tours around the state and around Oklahoma as well?
It varies. During session, when whatever states I'm assigned, Topeka or Oklahoma City, I'll be in those state capitals. The rest of the year, it'll be a matter of going and talking directly to state legislators, and there's a campaign aspect of it too. You've got the job of making sure that pro-Second Amendment folks get elected in the next election. So you've got to, I know from experience that you fill out a survey from many different groups, including the NRA, based on your beliefs, and if your beliefs line up with that group, then you're going to get endorsed by them, and that's how that works. So it'll be a matter of getting those surveys out, talking to those candidates, and helping push the ones that are supportive of the Second Amendment.
I'll tell you what, Travis, I hope we get a chance to talk to you maybe 6 months or a year into this job, and
That'd be
can
great.
Find out how that's going and what you've learned, because it's going to be a fun experience getting a chance to look at something different. We're going to miss you in the 110th seat for representing our area, but we wish you well in the new job and your new wedding coming up. So,
well, thank you.
All right.
And my predecessor will have to deal with me as a constituent now, so or
whoever
successor,
successor,
excuse me.
We'll have to do that, and they'll be able to. You can then give them suggestions on how to do the job right.
Absolutely. I'll try not to be too hard on them.
Travis Couture-Lovelady has been our guest here on the Forum program. He was formerly our legislator in the 110th District, now working with the NRA in the state of Kansas and other states around the area, in the region. Thanks for watching the Forum here on Eagle Community Television. It's brought to you by HaysMed and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
HaysMed is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, HaysMed is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. HaysMed, helping people be healthy.